Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today. I'm Andrea, the founder of Love Cyber, and I'm really excited to be hosting today's session with CloudGuard, with the team here at CloudGuard. Before we jump in, there's a couple of housekeeping bits. So the session is going to be recorded, so you can catch up later if you need to. If you have any questions as we go, just pop them into the chat and we'll pick them up at the Q&A session at the end. And finally, if you don't follow Love Cyber or CloudGuard, please do. So let's meet the panel. So today, Scarlett, Head of Customer Success, is joining us. Conor, who's the Chief Operating Officer for CloudGuard, and 𝐿𝐸𝐽𝐸, who is the Head of Engineering. So what is today all about? Well, it's really about real people and real routes into cyber. I think there's a bit of a myth about how you need to be super technical or come from an IT background to work in this space, but it's just not true. So some of the best people in the cyber started out in marketing, sales, customer success, or operations. So we're going to unpack what roles actually look like and hear some stories from the panel about how they made the move into this space and really dive deep into what employers really value when they're hiring. But Conor's going to give us an overview about where CloudGuard sits within the cyber ecosystem and what kind of roles are within that within their business. And he's going to go over some jobs within cyber as well. So I'm going to hand over to Conor.
Yes, Andrea, thank you very much.
Right.
Lovely to see everyone as well, and hopefully a good webinar. So just to give a bit of an intro into who CloudGuard actually are, like Andrea mentioned, we are a UK-based cyber company with one very, very clear mission. We're working on how security is done different and how it changes how security feels. So we are not just another SOC provider. What we have built is called an automation automation-led Security Operations Center, or a SOC, which you might hear us talk about quite a bit through the webinar, which is really designed to make security faster and smarter. And what that really means to everyone here and to us as a business is that we use automation and AI to take away repetitive tasks, manual parts of security operations, ticket triage, enrichment, correlation, everything that comes around security operations, and free up our time so that we can spend our time with our clients and really helping our customers respond to threats in minutes rather than hours. So it's really how we keep our teams motivated and creative. So security isn't just about technology, it's also about the journey. So CloudGuard also has a very growing advisory service where we support organizations in building their resilience as well. So how things like incident response planning, all that though, is super important for what Andrea has just mentioned in the introduction to the webinar, because what today's session is really about is behind all the innovation, behind all the cool things we're doing, behind the extreme protection we're providing for our customers is about the people. And we have a really, really diverse group of individuals, both inside CloudGuard and all in different types of roles in cyber, and they make it happen every single day. They make the cyber happen and secure our clients and keep everyone protected. So I think we're going to talk through, there's some stats on the screen around different cyber roles, and that's sort of today's theme, is what actually exists within the cyber sphere, because I think a lot of the time, and Andrea, you've probably seen this many times before, I know 𝐿𝐸𝐽𝐸 and Scarlett will have, a lot of people think that getting into cyber means I need to hack into a system, or I'm a SOC analyst. I just look at the screen all day, but I'm sure you guys will all agree there's a lot more, right? And it's a massive ecosystem. There's a lot of stats and stuff here as well. It can range from engineers, analysts, consultants, communicators, project managers, even creatives, marketing, etc., etc. And at CloudGuard, and especially across the industry, we sort of tend to group them into certain categories. And if you think about the slide that's on the screen, and you can see that around a third of people working in cyber came from outside of that cyber sphere entirely. So they are totally new to the industry over the current sort of UK. And they transitioned from mid-career, maybe they were in a different role, compliance, data, anything really. Industries like finance, retail, there are so many diverse options to get into the cyber world. And 1 in 4 people join directly from university. So I think there's also this myth that you have to have a degree, you have to have went through the university route to have a role in cyber. And today we're going to talk through my background, Scarlett's background, Yak's background, to give an example of how that's not the case and what you can do. So I think for us, there's technical and operational roles, the ones that a lot of people know of. So your SOC analysts, your threat hunters, incident responders, forensic analysts, automation engineers, SOAR engineers. There's a huge realm inside the technical sphere. They're the people that usually are at the front line. So they're detecting, responding, analyzing, looking at the alerts and the events to understand what's happening. Many people in that sphere, which is where I've came from, are IT support, networking, service desk, all that sort of stuff as well. Then you have Yak's world, which is the engineering, the DevOps, the platform security, your security engineers, your cloud security architects, your DevSecOps. There's a huge space there around scripting, automation, building these huge, robust and resilient systems to help everything that we do and other cyber firms do to run smoothly for clients. And it's a great space to grow in. Then you have the likes of Scarlett's world, which is the customer facing and the commercial roles. So you've got client success managers, like those that are in Scarlett's team. You've got pre-sales, you've got sales engineers, you've got BDMs, business development managers. You've got a huge range of roles. And then also things like advisory and strategic. So you've got virtual CISOs. So GRC specialists, incident response advisors, security consultants and auditors. You have finance teams, RevOps, project managers. So I think just to give you an idea, there's a huge ecosystem of opportunities within cyber. And it's not just those wearing the hoodies or those hacking into systems or responding to alerts. I think there's a space, and I think alongside Andrea, what we're trying to do is raise awareness to there's a space for everyone, but we understand the challenge and we get that it's not easy to get into the cyber world, especially in this day and age. But at CloudGuard especially, we believe that combining automation, empathy, innovation is how you do security differently. And that's really what we're trying to deliver on. It's not just about stopping attacks. It's about creating trust, empowering growth within our clients, the journey that they are on, and protecting themselves and giving people confidence in what is a scary world out there, as we see on the news and the media. So, Andrea, hopefully that gives people...
Yeah, and that just screams out that, communication skills are just huge, aren't they? It's just, your clients need to trust you. You need to be able to have that empathy with them. And yeah, so that's a massive part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Conor. That's brilliant. So we're going to hear some stories from you guys now, how you guys moved into the cyberspace. Scarlett, do you want to kick us off?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Nice to see so many people here. I'm Scarlett. I'm Customer Success Leader at CloudGuard, and I've been here for just over 3 years now. Started off in CloudGuard as a Customer Success Manager and then worked my way up to Customer Success Leader. Have not come from a cyber background before CloudGuard. In fact, my my degree at uni was sport marketing, so I could not be any further from cyber, but moved into customer service and affiliate marketing straight from uni. So was always in customer facing roles. And I think that's where I've developed my soft skills and relationship management. Then wanted to challenge myself. And moved into tech, again, customer facing. I was actually a renewal consultant, so dealing with renewals day in, day out for a tech firm, SaaS, in fact. And then it just happened by chance. And I know that sounds really cliche, but I was looking for a new role after being in a couple of different tech firms and enjoyed the space, found it interesting, and saw there was an opportunity with CloudGuard. It was a startup at the time, first customer success manager to come in. And I just loved the idea of having that base of customers, looking after them myself on not a huge scale at the start. It was a small base and being able to develop and expand on my skill set with CloudGuard. So yes, it was falling on my feet, I would say, and I haven't left since. I've loved it. I have totally learned so much. I finish every day at work learning something new, whether that's from my customers that I'm interacting with or just the people that I work with internally. And there's so many different avenues you can go down. But I've always been involved in relationship management roles, and that's where I pride myself. That's where my skill set seems to work best from my experience. So yes, that's how I'm here, and I love it.
Great. Great. I mean, so customer success is a huge growth area, isn't it, within cyber vendors?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, you're from a marketing background, what other backgrounds would you say would suit this space?
I would say anything around relationship management or that is customer facing. So things like customer service roles, account management complements customer success really well when you're dealing with sales. The whole purpose of customer success is to renew those accounts every year and keep those contracts in place and expand those accounts as well. So sales complements that because there's an element of that as well.
You had some technical experience, didn't you? But how technical did you feel you need to be to join a customer success team if you're just starting out?
It's definitely an advantage, I won't lie, having some technical background. But like I say, my degree was sport marketing and I went straight into tech. And you learn things along the way. You've got to put time in to do your own research. You have to ask questions. You have to be interested in the people around you and ask things that you're not sure on. That's how you build your knowledge. And just over time, that's how I've got to my role.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cheers, Scarlett. Yeah, great. Jakob, you've got an interesting story. Do you want to talk us through your journey?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. I'm Jak, head of engineering. I work with and lead a team of amazing engineers making all of our crazy ideas come to life. So my story is a little bit different. So I never went to uni. I would say dropped out of college, but wasn't very interested in college. And started off a career path inside of healthcare, mostly. So I worked within healthcare for about 10 years, worked my way through the ranks from service desk analyst, through to database administration, systems analyst and whatnot. So everything in between, right? All the different IT roles you can think of. And I got to a stage where I was listening to podcasts, kind of always interested in security. As any tinkerer, I love breaking things and figuring out how they work. And whenever I thought about cyber roles, I was just saying, oh, that'd be such a cool job. If only I could do that, right? And so what changed there was I was listening to these podcasts called .NET Diaries, amazing podcasts if you want to just have a little insight into weird and wonderful stories that happen in cyber. And one of the episodes was about this hacker who did something bad and then ended up getting recruited for working on the defensive side. And on that particular episode, what was discussed was what does it take to be someone that works in cybersecurity? And it was pretty much, well, within a very technical role at least, it was pretty much very hands-on, staying up to date with the latest trends, and really good at what they do, but also passionate about cybersecurity as well, amongst other things. And that, for me, it ticked a box. And then also pair that with the fact that my daughter was born and I was very passionate about cyber. And I'm looking around at all of these things that are happening. This place is being breached. There's lots of horrible things happening online. And so I thought, you know what? For me, this is a very good reason to actually join the cyber army and start making a difference there, because what better way to help protect my daughter and then everyone else, our future generations, from all the bad stuff that's happening in the cyber world, right? And that made me think, okay, how do I get in now? I need to do this. And it was for me pretty much a case of just reaching out to loads of people. So I was very blinded by this whole, you need to have degrees and education inside of cyber to join cyber. And the more I spoke with people, first outside the industry and then eventually inside the industry, I even reached out to cyber boot camps saying, what education do I need? What certification should I do? And most of them turned around and said, well, looking at your experience, you probably don't need anything. And then just speaking with people mainly helped me realize, actually, I've got a wealth of transferable skill sets that I could basically talk about and use when I'm applying for these cyber roles and get into cyber. And that's exactly how I got in. So it wasn't any kind of degree or anything, but rather just looking back at all my experiences and leaning in on those and bringing that up. And yeah, here we are.
Brilliant. So for the developers in the room, I think there's quite a few developers here today. What kind of what's different about building in cyber versus other types of software engineering, would you say?
Yeah, so I start by the first slide where we said 30 about a third of people inside of cyber came from a non-cyber background. That's actually very true for my team, where exactly 1/3 of my team have come from a non-cyber background.
Amazing.
And so what it all boils down to is, in terms of a developer, being security focused, massive advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to know about all the exploits and this kind of stuff that goes out there, but demonstrating that you have the ability to follow best practices when you're developing in any space. So it doesn't have to be just DevOps or application development, but you've got automation, you've got databases, you've got so many different technologies that are out there. Following best practices, first of all, is probably the highest area of focus, because these best practices ensure that you're following some sort of standard that help you create secure things, things that can't be hacked into, things that are secure by design. And outside of that, a passion for cyber goes a long way.
Yeah,
absolutely. But attitude and aptitude are some of the biggest things there. If you've got that positive can-do attitude and the aptitude, you show you yearn to learn more, you want to push yourself. You don't want to be stuck doing the same thing. You want to expand. I want more challenges. I want to get into the cyber world. I want to make a difference. I've not done this before, but I'm absolutely certain I've got the ability to do that. That goes a very long way.
Amazing. Thank you, Yak. And Conor, let's hear about how you got your journey in the cyberspace, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think love both Scarlett and Yak's story. I think hopefully the epitome of CloudGuard as well, Andrea, where the idea is that we want to bring people in and join us on a journey, and I think giving people a chance as well. I think Yak and Scarlett will agree it's a hard world out there, especially getting into cyber, and what we're trying to do, especially with the CloudGuard Academy, is bring people on a journey, give them the experience that Yak mentioned, because that, and Scarlett, that's where you learn truly, is when you're on the tools, you're able to get in and get involved. My background is probably a bit more textbooky and theoretical and what you would expect from a typical SOC analyst. So I done a degree in computer science at Queen's University in Belfast, and we done a module, for example, on cyber. But at the time, I was planning to be a software engineer and didn't really take it over seriously in terms of the cyber aspect. It wasn't a full-blown cyber degree, it was a computer science degree, database focused, etc. What it did give me was the skills of analytical thinking, programming, all that sort of stuff that does come in quite useful as a SOC analyst. And I worked as a network admin, system admin for a while, and got exposure to service desk support, all that sort of stuff as well. And sort of like Scarlett mentioned, the role came up in Belfast for a US security firm that was moving to Belfast at the time and setting up a hub, and I joined it as a junior analyst. So never had been an analyst before, didn't really understand the security space, and like Yak mentioned, never really had that passion for cyber. It was sort of just I joined it because I thought, okay, this looks interesting and cool, but had never really delved into it before, which is probably the opposite side to most people. And then I sort of found my rhythm over time, went from junior analysts from L1 to L2, met some really amazing people. I think the biggest thing for me, though, in my career over the last sort of 10 years was a mentor. So I've had a few really big, impactful people that when you ask the question, who helped you get there, I can instantly think of them.
Right.
So especially in those early days, it was finding someone who believes in you, someone that is willing to give you a chance. And I think a lot of people call that luck. I think it's a mix of determination, hard work, but also having good people out there that want to give back to the industry and want to give back to those that are trying to break in like I was. So I think that was a really
You
big
have to
thing.
drive that though, don't you? Like Jakub was determined to get into the cyberspace, and I love the fact that, he really put himself out there to do so. And it's the same to have that mentor working with you. You've really got to put yourself out there and keep pushing yourself, don't you? Get in front of the right people. Yeah, and those doors open.
Yeah, because mentors are like all of us, they're busy people, right? They've got their full-time jobs, and I think sometimes you don't realize that, but there's loads of different avenues, I think, now versus back then. There's different tools, there's different places you can go to find a mentor. LinkedIn, for example, I think is a really good one of just putting yourself out there. What are you looking for? What have you done? And what is it you're trying to do? So I think for me, then obviously a mentor was a big thing. It helped me through my career, moved into a few different leadership roles, joined CloudGuard very early days. There was only, I think, one other person in CloudGuard at the time, but always had this passion to do security differently. And when I met Matt and Jab, who are two co-founders of CloudGuard, our CEO and our CTO, two amazing industry leaders in the space, had this huge vision for doing security different. And yeah, joined there, and I'm now obviously doing the COO role. But I think for a lot of people, it shows how that early work and putting the time in and the determination, starting from a junior analyst, it wasn't handed. It was very much, if you work hard and find mentors, and like Yak said and Scarlett said, you really embrace the space. I think it's only in the last few years I've really truly embraced cyber, because what it does for organizations is huge. Like, again, we see it on the media, we see it on the news, what's happening to a lot of places out there. Businesses are going down every day from these attackers, and we have a huge responsibility and are hugely honored, especially to our own clients, especially at CloudGuard, to be able to protect these individuals and be able to provide an experience to them, hopefully that's also exceptional, not just protecting them. So
great story from analyst to COO. It's fantastic. Yeah, well done. That's great. So should we move on to what employees really value and go through that? Conor, do you want to kick off with that from your side in operation? What stands out when you're hiring? What do you look for?
Yeah, I think that was a really good question, Andrew. I think especially because operations as a whole is quite broad. So operations from in our lens includes Scarlett's team, our advisory team, our SOC team. But I think for us, and this maybe does sound a little bit cliche, but I think for us, what we're looking for is some form of technical ability. So being aware when you're applying for the role you're applying for. For example, I'll pick SOC analyst because it's the one that most people usually think of, or a pen test or incident response. There's different levels of those, and if you think about it, SOC analyst is usually the entryway for a technical sort of investigator role. It opens up so many doors into forensic analysis, incident response. You need to have the foundations, but to be the likes of a SOC analyst, what we're looking for in these technical roles are showing that you've done. You don't need to have the qualification. We're not looking at them and saying, okay, if you don't have a degree, you're out. It's not like that anymore. You can have things like, let's show the certifications that you've maybe done off your own back. So you've went and made something, hopefully a small investment and nothing too large, but you put the work in to try and find out as much as you can. You've done some different certifications. You're really trying to show that you want to be a SOC analyst. And I've mentored a few different people, and sitting down with them, a lot of it is once you get chatting to someone, it's hard though, Andrea, isn't it, on a CV to really show yourself and your passion across. And you have to stand out. Your CV has to try and be something a little bit different. Because there is just so many different people trying for different roles at the minute. And then usually once you have a conversation, you can sort of work out the passion. Where does the authentic passion lie, and who really wants it versus, maybe someone that is just doing it because they've done a degree, and like me, really, we just got lucky, really. But I think for us, it's how can you give your passion, determination. It's things like showing your accreditations, showing the work you've put in. Maybe you've been doing side projects, especially now in this new, and Yak can talk to this so much better than I can, but automation and AI space, so up and coming. There's no SOC provider now that isn't thinking about it. So it's starting to dabble. What can you do? Just understanding what ML means and AI and how that can help further security. So maybe it's some side projects. There's lots of different stuff out there like Security Plus, Network Plus. The foundations are super, super important.
So when you're looking to hire in your team, then what would you look out for in terms of how they present themselves, or would you want people to do something a bit differently, maybe do a video, or what's the first thing that stands out that you think, yes, I've got to meet this person?
Yeah, so it's very similar to Conor. So I was at a wedding on the weekend, and I bumped into someone, and they asked me the exact same question. So she's a game developer and she wants to join cyber and she's passionate about it. And she said, I want to join cyber, but it just seems so difficult to get into. Like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what my CV should look like. I don't know what to apply for. Like, what is it? Because all I'm seeing is I have to be cyber focused and I have to be on the trend, know what all the latest exploits are and, just on top of everything. And I was like, actually, no, not really. You don't need to. What it's all about is transferable skills. Now, there's a part there where you need to kind of identify what your transferable skills are. First of all, what role would you apply for? That is something that you just got to go on this journey and figure out, right? You can kind of look at job postings and see, okay, this job involves a bit of this or a bit of that, and get kind of a feel for what you might be doing there, or maybe if that's even something you would apply for. But once you've identified that, it's a case of figuring out those transferable skills, right? So, for example, one of our more recent hires has done a fair amount of work in the area that we were looking for, but a completely different tech stack, right? Completely different to what we use. But that's not something I'm looking for. Again, the attitude, the aptitude, and those transferable skills. Now, in the tech world, it's kind of weird because if you look at different tech stacks, it's mostly semantics. Things are just called differently, or there's a slight difference in how you do certain things, but the core technology and the core approach remains the same. And that's where the transferable skill set comes in. So we try and sit down and think about, oh, I've done this, this, and this, and it's very similar to what I want to apply for, and it applies from a cyber context as well. You got to remember, at the end of the day, cyber is a different industry. It doesn't mean we do things in a totally different manner. That is not the case. If anything, we want to try and follow best practices as much as possible. And then from company to company, things are slightly different. So here at CloudGuard, we want to be really innovative. So if I'm looking at someone, I want to see passion, dedication, but also understand what cyber means, and just show some sort of dedication towards that, or some sort of passion towards that. So just saying things like, I don't know, in my own time, I built this threat hunting tool or something like that. Again, it's a bit too focused, but these are just recent examples that I've seen. But yeah, just showing that security awareness that, I want to join as a developer that's amazing at what I do, but also someone that has a passion towards cyber. And you show that, like Conor said, by doing these training courses or mentioning, these are things that I consider, or other things like that. Just get that message across of, not only am I really good at what I do and I've got these transferable skills, but I am passionate about cyber. I'm not coming into this because it's another job, because I'm looking for a job, or because I want the money. I'm coming into this because this is something I want to do. And if you can get that message across, that goes a really long way.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Scarlett, what about you? When you must have been inundated with CVs when you're hiring in your department, I can imagine.
Yeah, and it's hard. I would say customer success manager is really difficult to get applicants for and handpick which ones you want to speak to, because reading things on paper isn't the same as hopping on an interview over Teams or meeting people in person, and actually exchanging conversation in person is so different. I don't want to read all about sales stats on a CV, to be honest. I want to meet that person, see their soft skills, make sure that they can interact with people, engage off that. Obviously, it's lovely to have some technical expertise or have dealt with some sales targets before. Not that we're focused on that in customer success, but dealing and handling with renewals or managing some projects internally, or you've looked after a few accounts and dealt with internal stakeholders. But it really is meeting those people face to face and just getting a feel for who they are. Do they have that empathy that we're looking for when dealing with customers? At the end of the day, with cyber, it's really sensitive information and data that we're dealing with as well. So we have to be mindful of that when we're customer facing. And we just need someone to provide confidence and build trust and loyalty with those customers. So I'd say CVs are difficult. My best advice would probably be to just make sure that you can apply whatever experience you have to the job application for that role, and just provide those examples, come in that interview, be bubbly, be confident, and just reiterate that and show that you've got those skills that would make a great customer success manager.
maybe to stand out a little bit more, maybe find out who the hiring manager is, connect with them on LinkedIn, maybe send them a little video or anything to bring your personality across as well, because it is so competitive. So the more they can see you and not just a piece of paper, the better, I guess.
Absolutely. And in my role, it's not all those customer check-ins that I have and quarterly business reviews. We talk about holidays. You get to know that person on a personal level. We don't just talk about cyber for the full hour that I speak to these people. We want to know, I want to know, have they got children, where they live in the UK, things like that, what they like to do. So it is just being able to make that conversation happen. And again, like I say, just building that trust between yourself and the customer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys review a lot of CVs and LinkedIn profiles, I get, daily probably. What's one common mistake you tend to see on a CV or a LinkedIn profile?
The first paragraph. The first paragraph for me has to be the most important thing. And it's probably the most difficult one to nail. How do I know this? Because the first paragraph has never got me anywhere, I'm going to be honest. If I've applied at roles with a CV alone, not a chance in hell. If I've approached someone outside of applying for that role, like you say, do your research, find out the hiring manager or whoever the person is that you might end up speaking with, and just reach out to them on LinkedIn and have a little conversation to help break that barrier. But yeah, for me, absolutely. The first paragraph of the CV, if I see the template, hardworking, punctual individual, blah, 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 it's already just like, I've got 100 more of these to look at. Like, and it just becomes really difficult to look past that because you've already lost your attention there. So capturing the person's attention in the first paragraph is really important. Almost use that as your main stage. Like, this is who I am as a person. Not what you'd expect or want them to hear, but rather, who am I? Someone that's passionate about cyber because of this. My experiences, of this, here's what I can bring to the table, as opposed to the standard, hardworking, punctual, collaborative, team worker, and all this kind of stuff. Really switch that up, because that's the first paragraph is where you make your impression, and that's where you really need to grab that person's attention. I'd say if there's one thing I could point out, it would be that, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. And then I guess have your LinkedIn profile to reflect everything on your CV as well. And yeah, of course.
I love what Yak said there, Andrew, as well. And I think as he was speaking, I was thinking about the status quo and about how, and it's what Yak's saying is so true, because you usually look and they all follow the same pattern. It's not even just the first paragraph. It's usually that Yak nailed it, the hard work, and I think we're all ready to making the assumption that the individual is that, and I think it's don't be scared to be bold and be different. And I think research who you're applying for, because we want to see the true self in a CV, because that's the type of organization we are. But I know that not every organization is like that, not every culture is like that, and that makes sense for them. But I think especially for the smaller businesses and those that have a clear mission, vision of what they want to get out of it, try and relate that and I know that's difficult, I really do know it's hard, but I think part of it is do your research on the company and don't be scared to steer away from the status quo. Don't just do the template, don't just follow every other CV you see online, because that's not always the way to grab someone's attention.
Yeah, maybe just say why you want to work for CloudGuard, what stood out about CloudGuard. This is why I'm making this application to you guys, and this is why I would fit in with CloudGuard. So yeah, that kind of tone would be great. Yeah. Do we have any questions do you have any questions elsewhere coming in?
I think there's definitely quite a few questions.
So that was, what is the line that stuck out to you most in reviewing CVs? Most recently, going back to what Conor said, the first paragraph was all about CloudGuard and what CloudGuard stands for and their take on it and how they could bring that value in. So it's very heavily focused on AI, on automation, on efficiency, on putting security first and being customer focused. That really stood out to me, because that told me a number of things about the individual, including the fact that they probably actually care about this role and really do want to join here, because they've taken the time out, gone and researched what our values are, and then put those forward and almost kind of singing to me exactly what I want to be hearing. That really, really stood out for me.
Yeah. And I think even the thought of AI and obviously it's a huge infusion in our business and it's what's driving the industry forward to be different, but you can very easily spot an AI generated CV, and I think it's absolutely use it as an enabler, but try and add your own stamp, right? Try and take it the extra mile. Don't just export from an AI tool and then just hand it in, because we see so many of those, and I think that would be one big thing as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say, I
Loads of-
think from my side as well, because it is such a personable role, I love on a CV. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love the bit that is around your hobbies and your interests, because I think it's an icebreaker. And again, it just personalizes that CV. You sift through so many that again have similar experiences, similar backgrounds, especially in customer success. People come from loads of different industries, which is brilliant. But actually knowing what people want to do outside of work, I think it's just a great icebreaker as well. And it just brings it back down to, you know, we're all human and we all want to do a good job. And, you know, if you're coming into cyber, it is really serious, but fun. But it's a, like I say, sensitive industry to be in. But just bringing it back down to earth and saying, this is what I like doing outside of work. I love that. I love having a good look. And then when you get on an interview with them, it's a conversation starter.
Scarlett, with just from that, like what with the last person you hired, what was that the last person you interviewed? What was it about that CV that you think, yes, I've got to see this person?
A lot of it was around experience
Yeah,
in account management and dealing with renewals and looking after a customer base. So knowing that those skills were already there over a year's period, it makes a big difference coming into a role where you're going to be managing accounts anyway, and it just gives you that little bit of a front foot as well if you've dealt with accounts before and customers and been in those roles.
Any more questions?
There's a lot of questions, Andrea, in the chat. I don't know if we want to just start taking them from the top, but yeah, there's loads, so might be good to start going through those.
Yeah, let's start running through those.
Yeah. Yeah, this might be a good one for you. Around training courses. Are there any external courses that, if passed within CloudGuard, you think would help with an application across the business? If you had them yourself already.
I have none. I think that's the theme of it. I just, hands-on experience is what got me in, but equally recognize different people learn in different ways, right? Some people learn better through hands-on experience and will absolutely die on an exam, like myself. Other people absolutely need that whole kind of educational framework in order to learn and enable them to do better. It kind of depends on what area you want to apply in. So, for example, if you're applying, and Conor, you could probably say this better than I can, if you're applying for a SOC analyst, you'd want something around a SOC. And I think, someone mentioned about try hack me and whatnot. Those kinds of things are really useful because it shows you trying to be active in the space. It shows not only are you trying to understand what to do, but you're also trying to figure out how people are doing these things. And it gives you that leverage, right? In terms of engineering, again, I think engineering are just those types of people where we are generally hands-on. But one thing that does go a long way is having some sort of formal education in computer sciences, in programming, again, some sort of general engineering type or IT type background. It just gives the extra confidence that these people are actually technical. Again, it varies from person to person, but it's a good way of saying I'm actually technical. I have some formal education in X, Y, and Z, and that does help quite a bit, to be fair.
Yeah, love that answer, Yak. I think maybe we'll just pick another few questions because I know we're at time. I think Daniel asked a really good question around CISSP sort of certificate, and do we see the value? And I think there's a few people in CloudGuard, Daniel, that do have CISSP certification. I think it's based on, I think for me, CISSP is more what you want out of it. So if you're looking for a more architectural, really in-depth technical role, then yes, there's a lot of value. but there's also loads of other certifications too. It really is about, and it's not a small investment either, sis, so it's something to think about, but it depends the sort of future path that you want to go down and whether it would, create a huge impact. It's very detailed and there's loads of really valuable outcomes from it. You'll learn a lot. But again, a lot of it comes down to practical experience too, and how that would then transfer into future roles. But yeah, really good question around certifications. And I think, Andrew, you'll see it too. There's so many certifications out there, right? And it's hard for people really, especially in a foundation stage, which one do we take first? Which one will help us break into the industry? And I see some questions around try hack me, all that sort of stuff, especially for university students. So we have a CloudGuard Academy where we take students through their placement year, give them experience into industry, build them the skills. They do Security Plus while they're with us, for example, and a few other certifications. They go back to uni and then hopefully come back to us once they finish their degree. But things like try hack me, all those sort of platforms are really good for showing, okay, I've never done this in a environment of a client environment, but I can show you what I would do. I can talk around the terminology, the process behind it. So much value in that too, as well. Okay, we're nearing time, Scarlett. There's one question. Maybe we'll take one last question. That might be a good one for you, Scarlett, just before we wrap up, Andrea. But what's the best way, Scarlett, to emphasize transferable skills, both at CV and interview time? So Jasmine wants to transition into tech from like a film and TV industry and is curious about, has a technical background, but wants to be in a role like a CSM role, Scarlett. So what's the best way to try and, emphasize those skills, those transferable skills of CV and interview?
Well, I'm presuming film and TV, you're around people all the time. And again, that is the role within customer success. You're interacting with that end customer, making sure they're happy with the service and being able to liaise within, in this case, CloudGuard, to our stakeholders. And I give that feedback. You're the primary point of contact as the customer success manager. So it's just being able to, like I said before, look at that job spec and see what skills you're doing in your current role and examples of potential projects, like I said, that you're managing, or whether you deal with processes from start to finish, or whether you deal with a specific group of stakeholders at your side, partnerships even, whether you can apply that to the customer success role. It is tricky, but there's definitely things that everyone does within their role that is transferable to another role. So it's just being able to pick them out, have a good look at the job spec and say, oh, what can I do here that I actually apply in my current role? And just bring it to the table, pop it on your CV, bring the examples to life in the interviews, because we ask more questions about that, and just be yourself. That's the best possible advice I could give.
Time to answer any more, or was that the last one?
There was a really interesting one, but it disappeared off the chat. I don't know where. It was about AI and automation being used, that it has the potential to replace roles and stuff, and what do we do to address that challenge? And that was a really interesting one. So using AI and automation as a tool rather than a replacement is kind of our approach. So there's always a human in the loop, and let's face it, like if you think about it properly, AI can replace parts of human roles, but when it gets really complex, especially like in the world of cyber, I don't think anytime soon that's going to happen. I don't think anytime soon AI is going to replace humans. But what you can use it for is as a tool to increase efficiency, accuracy, and basically give the SOC more time. This answers the part of the question, like how can we use it to help people or improve things? We use that to give back time to people within CloudGuard so that they can think of how can we innovate now, how can we make this better? Like, it's one thing running a SOC service. So running a SOC isn't just dealing with tickets. There's all sorts of other things you do, like report writing, there's threat hunting, there's so many other things, right? And it then becomes a case of, right, we've got time, we've got AI helping us out, it makes our life a lot easier. We still need to be here, helping it chug along and whatever. But now we've got time to think about how can we make this better? How can we make threat hunting better? You know, why should it be we run it once a month? Very good question, actually. Let's think about how we could improve that. And so you start to focus on making better products and building better solutions and bettering processes to help, at the end of the day, your customers and just help them be more secure and just be better at what we do. And that's kind of our take on that is use it as a tool to aid you, not as a replacement for humans, and use that tool in a way that's going to help you become more innovative and just get better at doing things. And I got to say this, security done different, that's what it is having that time and the ability to innovate and focus on doing the things that we do, but just doing them better over and over and over again.
I think there's another one. I'm just going to quickly answer it because it's important for the people here who don't have a tech or cyber background. Someone asked at the beginning, what challenges did you face when shifting to a tech-focused position, and how did you overcome them? That was me, no technical background. One of the challenges is obviously confidence and feeling like I had to learn everything. It was the same making that transition from tech to cyber. I was like, whoa, this industry, there's a lot to learn. And it's just having to have that confidence of, you know what you know, you'll learn along the way, but also rely really heavily on the team that you have behind you. So Jakob and his team, Conor and the wider operations team, and the consultants that we have at CloudGuard. I don't need to know everything technical. If I've got a nice base level that I can go and speak to my customers with, great. But the minute it gets a little bit beyond my knowledge, then that's what you've got the other departments and teams for, to pull them in, arrange those calls with those customers, bring in Jakob and his AI expertise and be able to let them deal with the conversations. So now it's just having that confidence of being able to manage those relationships, and you don't need to know everything for those people who do want to move into cyber who are non-technical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we love our acronyms as well. I'm going to be honest, they throw me off even until today. Imposter syndrome is real. But if I put this differently, you're going to face that in any role that you do. Anytime you switch industry, your first job that you did, imposter syndrome is real because it's your first time doing it. But guess what? You've done it once, you've been through it, and you're okay. And that's totally fine. It is no different in cyber as well. So yeah, you'll have plenty of imposter syndrome. Even now, I still do sometimes. And that's okay. You've got people around you to help you, to support you. Use them, absolutely. Just remember, you're there to bring your own value to whatever you're doing in cyber. It's not that you're surrounded by people and, oh, I shouldn't be here. It's more, I've got something to bring to the table. I just don't know what it is right now. I'm figuring it out. I love this and I've got the tools. I can do this.
Love that, Scarlett. That's brilliant. Thank you. That's great. I think that's it. I think we've run out of time, haven't we, guys?
Yes. Although if there is more questions, I think Scarlett, Yak, and I would all be open to, if you want to add us on LinkedIn or ask questions there, more than happy to take more questions there, definitely.